And we could bring on our hot topics guests here, Jay Steinback and Avvaru, Siva Avvaru of yWhales. And this is yWhales is a platform that's boldly pushing the boundaries of Web3 evolution and innovation. I'll tell you a bit about these two fine gentlemen. So Jay is co-founder, chief exec officer, and chairman of yWhales at the behest of hundreds of business professionals around the planet that were eager to learn and invest in the upcoming Web3 transition, leveraging the YPO network to transition into a Web3 community became a full-time endeavor. Prior to yWhales, Jay managed the successful sale of his family's retail empire to private equity in 2019. With over 2 decades of venture capital and startup experience, Jay was also one of the founding board members of Arch Grants, an annual equity-free $75,000 global startup competition, in charge of building the competition selection and due diligence process. And how about Siva? Siva Avvaru is the managing director at yWhales Solutions. He is a veteran in Web3 advisory, monetization strategies, and technology strategy and development. He has a strong track record of helping over 30 clients realize 500 million plus in revenue uplifts across various industries throughout his consulting career. Before yWhales, Siva was an engagement leader for the advisory practice of Advanced Technology Group. And finally, a little bit more about yWhales. It embodies a community-based firm advancing Web3 technologies through 4 divisions: communities, solutions, ventures, and labs. Their ecosystem is a network of global CEOs, entrepreneurs, and executives united by the belief in the transformative potential of Web3. Siva, Jay,
you read that great.
Thanks,
guys.
Thank you. I know.
It was a great reading, and I apologize we're not floating cartoon characters, so Fast has that on us.
Yeah, you're doing. Every time I do a good job reading, I literally flash back to like whatever 2nd grade, and they would bring up the thing and you had to read out loud, and I was like, I'm not bad at this. I'm doing okay.
Certainly better than me. That's why I'm not ready to raise my hand for that role, but especially the pronunciations, which I'm prone to butcher. But you know, guys, as I was sort of reflecting on sort of the serendipity of how we curate this show, I couldn't help but appreciate sort of, we have 2 sort of really innovative teams on this show that are sort of pushing the envelopes of traditional sort of concepts, right? In the case of what Fast is doing, but also in the case of yWhales and sort of its origins from YPO, which I think is really fascinating. Maybe Jay, you can kind of kick off this chat by telling us a little bit more about the story behind the creation of yWhales and what makes it so unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for having us on. Big fan and really appreciate the time. So yWhales was really born from the fact that in YPO, which is the largest global business network around the world, we all have traditional businesses for the most part. And these businesses are already up and running, and in some cases have tens of thousands of employees, producing billions of dollars a year. In fact, I think that we are, if you add up all YPOers together, we're like the 8th largest economy on the planet. So we have certain sets of rules we have to follow. And so what was really occurring was that, look, I bought my first Bitcoin in 2010, got really interested when Ethereum came along, and just was really kind of like, okay, there's another bull coming. Let's go for it in 2020. And reached out to a bunch of my YPO, kind of network and said, hey, what's everyone doing in this? And there was just chaos. It was just really chaos. There was no collaboration. And the reality is that for every meme coin, or DAO, or, cartoon dragon, there's those of us that have to be KYC'd AML. Like, we already have existing businesses. We have to follow regulations and laws and deal with this on a global perspective. And so we're kind of those ones that say like, hey, we see the benefits of blockchain. We know blockchain is going to win. That's kind of a hands down approach. How do we legally apply this to our current existing businesses to grow and expand our markets and our networks around the world? And so that's exactly what yWhales is we want to learn. So we're consistently educating ourselves. We come together twice a week into private Zooms, of which we're going to talk about what we've learned and from different perspectives. There are 10,000 hours. And then finally, how do we implement that for ourselves, our families, and our businesses to take advantage advantage of everything that we're learning and doing. And that's really where Siva comes in. He's the managing director of yWhales Solutions, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's designed to say, what are you doing today in the traditional world, and how can we apply blockchain and Web3 technologies to that?
Yeah, it's like, obviously you guys can't break the rules and start a fight club, but you can certainly bend the rules to sort of take full advantage of all this unique technology, right?
Yeah, and I think the one thing is that there's already a lot of rules and regulations that exist, and traditionally most people just go, "Hey, we're blockchain, we don't need that." That's fine. That can be some people's approach. We look and say that's fine. We can do some amazing things on chain with smart contracts, ZK rollups, and a variety of others to say like, look, KYC, everything we do, we're not worried about it, because the savings, the cost, the infrastructure, expanse that we can do is so much worth the technology compared to running on these archaic Oracle, database servers that have been running since the 80s.
Yeah, it's a great approach that a lot of people need to take, and we've had various folks on the show here and there that like that's their key value prop of what they're doing. Like this is all sort of vetted very highly and like gone through the sort of legal processes and all this stuff, and it's a mix, right? I mean, I think that as we've seen throughout the past several decades, maybe even, I was just watching the great documentary, by the way, called the Men Who Built America, which goes through, you're talking about Vanderbilt and, whatever, Chase, and just all these guys. And, throughout history, there's people kind of breaking rules before they get made. You know what I mean? And so there's sort of, in some essence, going back to that I Ching, Oracle, divination, do new things kind of concept. Those things need to happen. But at the same time, when the laws are already there, you might as well get to know them. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the things that we deal with is like, and I'll age myself here really quickly, is I implemented, Web1 into my family's business. We were a multi-state, retail operation. So I had carte blanche to, basically put in the first email servers, teaching hundreds and hundreds of people how to use email. And I think, today people can be like, what do you mean? But back in the day, it was very novel technology. It was not well adopted initially. And so just kind of those core concepts of watching Web3 with like, people don't understand how to use wallets. People don't understand how to manage smart contracts and self-custody. It's the same things that we were dealing with, really on in the day, which is just education, and really making sure that across the board, you're picking and choosing the right technologies.
Yeah. Siva, I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about this thing about to launch, yOne. First of its kind in many facets. Tell us about it. I'm sure the listener will find it interesting.
Yeah, so yOne is one of our first product identifications where we understood that there was a gap in the market today. When you think about metaverse platforms, especially from a business perspective, and mainly targeting a B2C customer base, there's not a lot of platforms that really capture the necessities of businesses to interact with one another, right? And so think about in today's world, the tried and true conduit that still exists today, regardless of a lot of technology disruption that occurs throughout the decades, is the trade show. And so, where a capability such as a metaverse capability or extended reality, right, XR capabilities really can bring some power to bear here is how do we start evolving on that current experience that most organizations know how to interact with today, which is the trade show, and how do we capitalize on that? And how do we amplify that? And that's where yOne comes in. So think about this from an analogy perspective, and probably very easy to resonate amongst your users, is we're essentially building an XR enablement for that trade show model, where businesses can come and integrate with one another, interact with one another, learn with one another, facilitate commerce with one another more effectively and efficiently. And one of the beauties, just as we know in crypto and Web3 today, is that there is no constraint of time, right? The minute we go virtual, 24/7 becomes a reality, right? The other things that I think a lot of these metaverse plays or metaverse platforms right now, there's two misses actually. The first we're seeing right now, last year was really the big first entrance of major brands testing their toes in metaverse platforms. And we saw some pretty big use cases, right? DKNY, a lot of these luxury brands were really leading the forefront on this. But what you're really doing, what was really, if we kind of summarize this, what really was happening in terms of those experiences being offered to the customers or the users isn't really anything that is pushing the boundaries of what they could experience today in real life, right? And when we think about the core nature of metaverse, it's how do we start to push ourselves around past our physical limitations of what is our physical environment? And the second big thing here from current metaverse platforms that we understand a gap around is there's not a lot of power behind the assets that are actually being generated in these platforms, right? So if you have a 3D asset, you have some sort of digital asset as a brand, and you go and deploy in, let's say, something spatial enabled, or let's say Roblox or what have you, you're confined to those walled gardens, right? And in whatever you develop for one platform, you have to go and extrapolate and develop for 3 to 4 different platforms. In marketing, that's pretty traditional in an omni-channel marketing experience. But here, when one of the strengths of metaverse is interoperability, there isn't a platform today that is stressing, how do you go and deploy this asset across 5 different metaverses at the same time? And how do they connect? And how are you capturing this information back to your centralized enterprise technology stack, right? Because that's a big thing too, that I think that we have a personal thesis on, is that for the next adoption event for major brands to get into Web3 has to be in a way that that weaves with their current existing enterprise stacks. For the most part right now, most organizations, especially large brands, don't have the nimbleness or don't have the flexibility to go and introduce a net new capability that hasn't been vetted for longer than 4 months and say, we're going to go and generate and rely and build the backbone of our entire new revenue strategy on this platform that's only been live for 4 months. That's
right.
Yeah, and pretty awesome that you guys are sort of thinking about this as one of your major projects. It makes a lot of sense to me in terms of the enterprise adoption use case. And I think, Ethan, we have a little sneak peek of what's to come here, right?
Yeah, let's check out this demo video for a minute or two. Again, we may or may not include this in the podcast, but we'll definitely keep a link to it as necessary. Let's check it out.
And one overlay here, as you guys are watching the video live, is every partner, every logo that you will see here are legally signed commits to the platform.
Very cool. So for the listener, as we're watching this, we're kind of flying through a spaceship type idea. I see a bunch of wild animals as well.
But the door
no dinosaurs.
I see Jay talking to
Oh, this is Jay, yeah.
I see Spatial, eToro, Solana.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, a lot of well-known brands committed to what's going on here. Very cool.
Uber Eats.
Yeah, I feel like maybe upgraded version of the Starship Enterprise kind of vibe here.
Yeah, part of the concept here is that the entire space can be turned over in seconds. Nothing is static except for the walls in the station. Every one of these little booths or kiosks, so we call them, is independent. They have their own smart contracts. They have their own APIs. They're their own really businesses in a box per se. And so we've developed all this back-end technology, and we've got some amazing partners that are helping us build the hooks into this. But if you've got a trade show related to, let's just say, cars, Fast is wants to do a pickup truck convention around here and talk about nothing but pickup trucks, and then a couple hours later that ends. The kiosks are going to be around for when we shift over to a fintech conference or anything else. There's going to be entirely different. We can change over the space over and over and over extremely quickly, and really almost on the fly. But it's also supposed to be designed as it's a mall. No one goes to a mall when it's empty. So there's a time it opens, there's a time it closes. Everything is token gated, so we know who's there, what they're doing, where they're going. And you can see there's quite a bit of integration in around the kind of immersive technologies that we have already on our desks today. I think Zuckerberg really helped us understand that you don't want to force people into a VR capabilities. So whether you're in a phone, tablet, normal desktop, or VR, everything just works.
Yeah,
Very cool.
beautiful. Very, very cool. And if you guys need some firework displays, I think you now know the right guy to pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
tweet.
well, here this is the closest we have right here to the dinosaurs is Avvaruverse.
Yeah.
They're a
Oh my
fabulous
goodness,
partner of
this is-
ours. Yeah, and that right there is, if you can see how big this is on the screen, that's a single GLB. All the animations built in. We've kind of developed our own little kind of package around how this is. So these are massive files that have to be shrunk down, because you guys know that on-chain NFTs are relatively, have to be small and nimble. So there's a lot of tech and a lot of partners that we've worked with on this one.
And what Jay highlighted there is really important, right? Well, I think one of the biggest personal purviews we have on a lot of these metaverse platforms, or what's going to be a successful platform for an enterprise, is it has to be infinitely scalable. It has to be infinitely nimble enough to go and deploy for a variety of use cases, where the core infrastructure is not the constraint, but it's just simply what is your 3D asset. And oh, by the way, we've solved that also to be a self-service capability within the platform itself. So you as a customer, you don't have to have a marketing agency. We have a no-code deployment capability in here for you to go and maybe upload an asset. We can digitize it, 3D model it, render it, put it in the file format. It can be deployed. But the key thing is that it's actually connected to something. And that's the big point.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
set it up
That's
front,
fair.
I was thinking
Visualization.
about, you mentioned like the trade shows, like the kind of oldest or like one of these classic things going on. And it made me think about the Columbian exhibition, the World's Fair, right? I love that this kind of feels like it's like the next evolution of
Hey,
that stuff.
yeah.
Two
super-
guys
super
from
cool.
St. Louis, the 1904 World's Fair is considered one of the best, purveyors in this space, and we kind of see that come bleed through here.
Yeah, no, it's sorry, I know we need to wrap up, but I'm super curious. Very, very quickly, just very quick question. Is the idea there that, say, if like and I know we need to KYC or whatever, like say some business, right? Uber Eats or whoever, they want to have like a space where there is, they want to showcase their product or, launching something or whatever. And it's not just that it's a metaverse place, but it's somewhere that there's going to be traffic, right? And there's going to be other people there with sort of like similar interests, other businesses with similar interests. And it's kind of like a trade show on the metaverse.
Yeah,
and is it
I mean,
connected to like the physical space as well? Like, is it like running in parallel to a physical event at the same time?
It's not meant to replace anything. It's meant to be.
But yeah,
a
okay, that's the
supplement, right?
question I was asking. Yeah.
Exactly. And so think of it as a supplement to further engagement, whether that's customer engagement or business engagement. And so this is just another channel that we envision our clients and customers to go and have the strategy around that as part of their full force marketing strategy, right? And again, to an earlier point, every capability or every asset that is deployed on this platform has to have some sort of real world connectivity, whether that's something as simple as, hey, go and interact with the Uber Eats GLB, asset up here on my one. And maybe that directly drops you into maybe a Discord chat of local San Francisco Uber Eats, Asian restaurant eaters or something. The brand has to decide that, right? We just provide them the conduit.
Great. And Siva, where do folks go to learn more about yOne?
Yeah, so what they can do right now is go to yWhales.com. And we have, since it is in beta, we have a contact us page. So that would be the first one. Second is they can reach out to myself or Jay here, since we are controlling kind of who is allowed in or out. And the third is also our head of ecosystem, Abraham Michael, will post his contact information here. And he's in charge of every partner that is going to be having a presence in this space. And we'll have all that contact details here for you guys.
Exciting stuff, guys. Appreciate you popping by and telling us a little bit more about what's going on in your world.
Right. And also, Josh, you can catch Josh and I on your guys' show as well. So
yeah, we had you both on our show, and it's great to have some cross-pollination here. So excited, and thank you guys for having us.
Lots of fun. All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you on the flip side. Quite a bit, I'm sure. Lots to talk about and collaborate on. See you around. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.